Laura was a girl who had a certain amount of beauty and attractiveness. She met Josh, and one day they went to Josh's cabin. When they arrived, he took her coat and went to hang it up, looking at her with looks full of love, exchanging smiles and looks full of love. He took her hand inside and asked her what she wanted to drink. She chose the wine, and he held her hand and told her how different she was, and there was no one like her. He smiled at her, and then went to the kitchen to prepare the drink. Laura sat down and began to follow him until he disappeared into the kitchen. She seemed to care about her appearance, as if she was remembering the period of their acquaintance, which had been 5 months. While she was sitting on the couch, she heard the sound of some things in the kitchen, so she got up to go to the kitchen, but she heard the sound of Josh laughing. But again a sound reached her ears that sounded distant or weak. It sounded like the sound of metal chains. So she paid more attention, perhaps repeating the sound until she was sure of what she heard, and indeed she heard the sound again. But this time it sounded clear and distinct, which helped her accurately determine the source of this sound, as the sound was coming from a small closet behind her. She first made sure that Josh did not pay attention to the sound, and that he was still busy in the kitchen. Then she went to the closet, keeping in mind that Josh didn't feel what she was doing. Laura arrived at the closet, and it was tightly closed. She grabbed the handle and opened the closet. When she opened it, a strange and unfamiliar smell emanated from it. Although the closet was full of hanging clothes, she saw that behind the clothes there was an old, dilapidated wooden door. The door was open, which he helped her see that there was an ancient stone staircase behind him, and the sound of the chains became louder. Laura looked towards the kitchen again to ensure that Josh did not pay attention and that he was still busy, and she made her decision to enter despite her fear. But she turned the light switch and went down to the basement quietly, and as she progressed, the sound of metal chains became clearer. When Laura finished descending the stairs, she remained standing terrified, looking at what she saw with her eyes in disbelief, as she saw girls hanging on iron chains without moving. Suddenly, Laura noticed that one of them was actually moving, albeit weakly, and the sound of the chains that she heard was coming from this weak body. With great horror, Laura looked and noticed the hummingbird tattoo that had been drawn on the hand of the hanging girl. Her missing sister also had the same tattoo in the same place. Suddenly a voice came from behind her and said to her, "This is why I told her that you are not like any of the people I knew, because you are dumber than them." Laura responded quickly. She did not give in to the surprise. She hit him with her elbow in the nose, causing him to fall backwards with the force of the blow. He lost his balance and lost consciousness for a few minutes due to him falling on his head. This retreat and imbalance gave enough room for Laura, as she pulled Josh to the wall and tied him to the wall. Laura was standing over him while he was lying on the ground, and because of the stress and effort, she was breathing hard. Laura began to calm down and breathe regularly while trying to control her nerves. Despite what she had said, she still could not believe that she had managed to reach the room and that she had found someone in it. From the beginning, she was just looking for information that could be the tip of the line to reach what she was looking for. Then she went to the conscious girl and called her Miranda. Miranda is Laura's sister, and she has been missing for almost a year, and with the lack of sufficient evidence to follow up the investigation seriously, she did not receive attention to the search and scrutiny, but Miranda's parents stopped their lives with the loss of their daughter. Here Laura decided to look for herself and find enough evidence to research Miranda's case. I started the search process through Miranda's email, where I searched until I came up with her password, and I found out that Miranda had hidden some conversations with someone Laura didn't know about, and their conversations were taking place on one of the dating sites. Laura came up with this person's account, and by searching she knew what he liked. Then she made an account for her and started messaging him, so that at first she chased him until he responded to her and talked to her, and then started dating between them. In interviews, of course, she used a name other than her real name, and she was always changing her appearance so that no resemblance between her and Miranda was noticed. Laura freed the girl who was weak because she was malnourished, but all that mattered to Laura was that the girl was still alive. Laura took her in her arms and told her that everything was over and she would be fine, and left Josh hanging without telling anyone, and closed the wardrobe for him to face his unknown fate. Certainly. In a quiet town, there was a young man named Mike who had a passion for sports. He enjoyed spending time with his friends, engaging in various athletic activities and adventurous outings. However, among his friends was a guy named Jake, who had a penchant for reckless driving, disregarding Mike's frequent warnings. One day, despite Mike's continuous warnings about Jake's dangerous driving, they decided to embark on a trip through rugged roads. The car accelerated wildly, and in a horrifying moment, it flipped over due to Jake's reckless driving. What were once happy moments turned into a nightmare. Mike became a victim of the accident, and his strong athletic body was now paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair. As he struggled to adapt to his new reality, Mike realized that he could no longer pursue his passion for sports. Over time, sorrow and shock transformed into internal anger. Mike decided to hold his friends accountable for the life-altering change. He began plotting revenge, but in a smart and cautious manner. The first step was to regain trust and reconnect with his friends naturally. Then, he started uncovering the truth and gathering evidence of each person's involvement in causing the accident. Mike used this information wisely to dismantle their relationships and highlight each person's weaknesses. Mike realized Jake's weakness, which was his girlfriend, and he accidentally realized that their friend Clark also loved her, and that she was his girlfriend one day without Jake knowing. So Mike leaked that information to Jake after he stole the private messages between them from Clark's phone to send them to Jake without anyone knowing. When Jake found out, he confronted Clark, who denied it at first, but he confessed and asked Jake to leave his girlfriend because he loved her. Jake became angry and beat Clark severely, amid Mike's joy and feeling of victory. So Clark was taken to the hospital to receive treatment, while Jake was arrested and put in prison. And here he felt. Mike tells him that he took revenge and that his plan to trap Jake had completely succeeded. In a quiet residential neighborhood nestled between tall trees and neatly manicured lawns, lived a man named Robert. He was an introverted soul who preferred the solace of his own thoughts to the bustling conversations of the community. Unfortunately, his reserved nature had made him the target of constant bullying by his neighbors, the Johnsons. The Johnsons, a seemingly perfect family on the outside, took pleasure in tormenting Robert. Their snide comments, pranks, and exclusionary behavior had isolated him from the rest of the neighborhood. Feeling trapped and desperate for a way out, Robert turned to the one thing he thought could give him a sense of control: the internet. Late at night, he delved into the digital realm, searching for any personal secrets or skeletons in the Johnsons' closets. With a few clicks, he uncovered information that could shatter their seemingly idyllic lives. Temptation got the better of him, and fueled by anger and resentment, he started a malicious campaign against them, revealing intimate details that he knew would bring turmoil to their family. As the secrets spilled out, chaos ensued in the Johnson household. Relationships strained, trust shattered, and their once harmonious family life crumbled. Robert reveled in the chaos he had unleashed, finding a perverse satisfaction in the suffering of those who had made his life miserable. Amidst the turmoil, there was one beacon of kindness in the Johnson family, their teenage daughter, Emily. She had always sensed the injustice in her family's treatment of Robert and, unbeknownst to them, had secretly reached out to him online, offering words of support and friendship. Robert, initially blinded by revenge, slowly began to realize the impact of his actions on innocent lives. Emily's genuine kindness and compassion touched a chord deep within him, and he started to question the path he had chosen. Guilt and remorse gnawed at him as he witnessed the pain he had caused the Johnsons. Determined to rectify his wrongs, Robert anonymously reached out to the Johnsons, confessing his misdeeds and expressing sincere regret. He offered his assistance in repairing the damage he had inflicted upon their lives. Although skeptical, the Johnsons, desperate for a resolution, cautiously accepted his help. Although he gave up on the idea of revenge, he found many hidden secrets about the life of Emily's father and felt the danger surrounding the Johnson family. The father manipulates the accounts of his best friend's company, whom he trusts, and also plans to demolish his friend's house because of his jealousy of his friend's family stability and successful future. Robert was terrified and decided to confront Emily about what happened, and she collapsed in shock. But she decided to fix what her father had ruined and not reveal Robert's dangerous discovery and cause the family's collapse. She confronted her father about his crimes and asked him to fix what he had done, leave his job with his friend permanently, and stay away from his life. Indeed, Emily succeeded and became a close friend of Robert. who did not imagine that his idea of taking revenge on her family would turn into their lifeline. A couple lived together for 37 years, a quiet and stable life full of love, tenderness, and reassurance. But one day the wife discovered her husband's infidelity with his office secretary and wanted to marry her. But the mean secretary stipulated that the husband divorce his wife and expel her from the marital home to live in that luxurious house that exceeds its price is $3 million. And indeed, the husband had no choice but to go to his wife and inform him of his decision, and that he would divorce her in order to marry another woman. And she had to move from one house to another within 3 days. The wife received the news very calmly and did not give him any reaction or object to her divorce from him, because she knows very well that she will not be able to complete her life with him under this new situation. And indeed, the poor wife took to collect her things in preparation to go from the house where she lived for 37 years and spent the most beautiful moments of her life. She waited until the 3rd day when she was supposed to leave the house. Then she ordered very large quantities of fish of all kinds, and after her husband came out, she unscrewed all the curtain pipes in all the rooms of the house and filled them with fish and shrimp and all these species that I left to rot after a while and come out with an unbearable smell. The wife left the house quietly. The husband and his young secretary spent the first 3 days of their lives normally until the unpleasant odors began to appear all over the house, a stench that is absolutely unbearable. The couple cleaned all the rooms of the house, opened the windows for ventilation, sprayed pesticides, fresheners, etc. But the smell was increasing day by day, so they decided to leave this house after failing to get rid of this smell, and offered it for sale to buy another house. But no one bought it. Then his ex-wife called and bargained with him for a price much lower than the price of the real house that he requested. But he agreed to sell while he was confused and did not understand why the wife decided to buy the house with this smell. But she stipulated that he take the furniture with him and hand over the house to her completely empty, and after completing the deal. The husband moved the furnishings of his home, including the curtain rods, to the new marital home, so that he and his secretary could enjoy the smell he had escaped from.